I trained as an EP in 1972, so a lot has changed in that particular period of time. I think the one obvious thing is it was originally a kind of male profession. Now, of course, it's a female profession. It's changed. It's been quite considerable. Nowadays, not everybody has a teacher's qualification. In those days, you certainly had to actually do that. There's now a healthcare professional council, which actually means that the work of educational and child psychologists is actually scrutinised, and if there are problems or difficulties, there's then a council which will examine any complaints and will rule, I suppose, accordingly. So those are the main things I think that have occurred. One-year masters has now, of course, changed to a 3-year professional doctorate for initial professional training. In those days, continuing professional development was really ad hoc. Universities did interesting things, but there was no standardization, there was no way of actually linking directly practice with, for example, research. At UCL we had quite an interesting set of professional development days, and from them various packages used to come out of those. I remember one particularly was very effective, was effective workshop skills. And then in continuing professional development, which is of course the area I've been most interested in 1999 UCL set up the DECPsy, the Doctorate in Educational Psychology, and that's been really quite a considerable change. There was a huge battle just to get this done at UCL, because of course the traditional PhD was seen as the only model which had got the standards and criteria that the university particularly wanted. But eventually we managed to get through, and eventually the course started, and it's been going now for really quite a considerable period of time, and it's still going. I suppose in training, people have now recognised as well that when you actually finish even a DECPsy, or in this particular case now for initial professional training, a doctorate in educational child psychology, that it's not the end of the road. In other words, the half-life in applied psychology now is probably about 4 or 5 years. In fact, in neurobiology or cognitive neuropsychology, it's probably only about 18 months, such as the change which is occurring over a very, very long period of time. So a lot of things has happened in training which have mirrored the pace of life within society generally. I think I'd have to start off by saying this has been a learning institution for 200 years and more, and educational and child psychology is actually 100 years old in this particular university. It's of course the place where educational and child psychology really began as a proper discipline, I suppose. And I think that is quite important. There is a sense of history about this place which you cannot actually learn in without being aware of it. UCL, I think, has got this incredible ease with which the university can absorb new ideas and new practices, but they are very wary about throwing away other more traditional aspects as well. So I think it's quite a nice mix in many ways, and that is something that becomes very obvious when you first actually come here. There's a clarity of the work that needs to be done for an applied psychology doctorate. So you don't have to guess, or you don't have to try to figure out what people are asking for. It's right up front there, and the criteria that are being asked for, they're up front as well. I would have to single out the tutorial system. The tutorial system here is quite amazing. The amount of help that people passing through either the DECPsy or the DECPsy, as it's called, the initial professional training course, the amount of help and support you get is really quite considerable. So as you move through, I think that you not only do you learn and develop, but also you're aware of the fact that you're moving increasingly towards an end, which is extremely obvious. The chances of actually reaching there are very, very high, simply because the amount of help, support and feedback you've been given over a period of time. That I think helps really quite enormously. I'd have to mention here the fact that this is a cutting edge research establishment. It lives in many ways and breathes research. If you come here to study any particular aspect of educational science psychology, there's somebody here who knows something about it, and they have read a lot, they have researched a lot, and they just know an awful lot about it. So not only do you have your tutors who can help you to go through this journey towards the end of a qualification, like a professional doctorate, but you've also got people to go and chat with, and they're at the absolute cutting edge of what goes on in a particular area. I think there are some things that are happening at the present moment are just going to grow bigger and bigger and bigger. I think the first one is probably to do with children's mental health, and I think that's going to become a huge task for various professionals, but especially educational and child psychologists. I think there's going to be a lot more work on children's mental health, particularly within schools, and again that's going to mean a lot of work over a period of time. I worry a lot about the new cyber age. I think there's some amazing aspects. The fact that, for example, on my iPhone I can find out the results of my favourite football team, even though I'm in Africa or Asia or somewhere similar. If someone asked me a question, I would say, hang on a second, and I'll be able to ask a question to Siri or someone else to be able to get this information. And that is incredible. The amount of knowledge at your fingertips and you can carry around with you is quite considerable. Of course, there's a dark side of this as well, isn't there? And that is particularly the cyberbullying aspect of things. And it is a really insidious situation at the present moment. We are going to have to find ways of not only dealing with cyberbullying, but also the sexual predators within this particular medium. So I think that's going to be a huge one as well. And I'm aware too that we are going to be involved with the impact of some of the social deprivation and poverty which is existing at the present moment. I've just been reading this morning that the number of people who are living in poverty has gone up by something like 700,000 over a period of 5 or 6 years. So we're going to reap, as indeed teachers and social workers and all sorts of other people, we're going to reap some of the harvest of that particular phenomenon which has occurred in our society.